Let's watch another CNN panel, this time with the likes of Van Jones, Alyssa Griffin, and others, talking about the Kamala town hall she did last night and the differences in the standards that the Harris and the Trump campaigns are held to.
Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are not taking the same exam.
Yeah.
And I think it bothers people. They're not taking the same exam. He gets to be lawless. She has to be flawless. That's what's unfair. That's what's unfair. That's what's unfair tonight. That's what's unfair tonight. They're not taking the same exam. Look, she has policies. She may not articulate them perfectly every time. She may not put the stories in the right places, but she's fighting for actual ideas that will help real people. And he's talking about people's penises. And so they are not taking the same exam, and that's pissing people off. It's pissing me off.
Well, and I'm also old enough to remember that if your fiscal plans were actually said to bankrupt the Social Security Trust Fund in sooner years, Donald Trump's, that would be a campaign-destroying issue. But we just gloss over things with Donald Trump.
I think one of the main reasons for this, the way how campaigning has become more about spectacle and entertainment than policy is because Donald Trump brought in a large group of people who before him weren't politically active. They don't follow politics outside of him. And frankly, they don't have the highest political acumen. Most of them don't understand how the government works. So they don't care or understand about policy prescription. They don't care or understand how the government's going to work and function and benefit everyone. They can just fill in those blanks with conspiracies anyway, or just the blanket statement of government is corrupt because there's just place to their ignorance, and all they want to do is cheer on their side during an election year, then not think about politics until the next one. So who really cares what's at stake for them anyway? But Van Jones did have a really good saying there. Trump gets to be lawless largely because of this, while Kamala has to be flawless. Trump can say these insane things on the campaign, release plans that independent analysis says will raise consumer prices by thousands of dollars a year, plans that independent analysis says will bankrupt Social Security. He can fail to expand on any policy position outside of raising tariffs and doing tax cuts. And it doesn't hurt him because, again, his side doesn't care about policy. It's just about winning. That's all most of his voters care about. While Kamala can release in-depth policy positions, expand on how she's going to pay for them, who they're going to benefit, and the right instead will focus on how she messed up a few words or took too many words to get there. It can truly be infuriating at times.
If you're going to be different than Biden, and if your message is turn the page, right? We're turning the page. Like, you got to give some specific answers how you're going to turn the page.
There are a lot of Americans who want to turn the page on the kind of craziness that we've seen from Donald Trump. This kind of incessant divisiveness and focus on his political enemies instead of on the problems of the American people. When she said, I just want to repeat this again, I would love to hear this 100 times between now and Election Day. He's got an enemies list. I've got a to-do list. I think
you're a better campaigner than she is.
This is on point, and when she speaks about turning the page, she means from the political atmosphere that Trump has created since 2016, again, largely through preying on people's paranoia and then bringing bigots into the voting sphere. She means that a vote for her puts an end to that and moves us forward from it as a country, where Trump constantly goes at his political opponents, labels them horrendous things, provides an us against them mentality that is far from the usual connect it with disagreements mentality that existed in politics before him, where he attacks media, he attacks any institution, he destroys credibility in government anytime that they aren't on his side, but anything that is on his side is trustworthy and good, like the Supreme Court, for instance, right? It's all for political benefit for him, while also inciting hatred towards minority groups. And Kamala represents none of that. And a Kamala win represents that losing its place in politics, thus turning the page from it.
If you don't believe that Donald Trump is capable of saying that $60,000 doesn't cost that much to bury a fucking Mexican, then you haven't been listening to Donald Trump. You haven't been listening to the way he talked about Judge Curiel as just a Mexican. You haven't been listening to the way he talked about Mexicans as criminals and rapists. You have forgotten when he said that people like me come from shithole countries. This is true to form for Donald Trump. So for those Latinos out there who think that when he says racist, offensive things, it doesn't apply to them, you are wrong. And if you are a Latino or an American with Trump amnesia, this should help to cure you.
Just want to point out that Ana Navarro, the lady in this clip, is a Republican. She's also spot on in what she's saying. The mental gymnastics that MAGA has to go through for Trump has to be exhausting, where he publicly says something racist and it's just, oh, well, he's taken out of context, or he just speaks his mind, or he didn't mean it like that. We can't judge him the same because he just talks off kilter. When he says something privately, it's just, oh, there's no proof. He couldn't have said it. But then again, any conspiracy about any Democrat is absolutely verifiably true with no evidence. We'll draw this and put these together and show how there's like this light string here that attaches them, and it's completely true. But for Trump, of course, even clear evidence is just wrong, and we're taking him out of character. And I mean, the pattern of Trump's character couldn't be clearer, right? He lashes out at predominantly black cities like Detroit. He calls countries with predominantly brown populations shithole countries. He says that blacks can relate to him now that he has 88 felony charges. He said that immigrants are criminals and poisoning the blood of our country, saying it doesn't cost X amount of money to bury a brown person. So why do we got to pay this for this person? That a judge is just a Mexican, so who cares what they think? It's clear that he is a racist. If you're not doing mental gymnastics, it's clear he's a bigot in all capacities and all meanings of the word. And the only reason he doesn't lose support is that the people supporting him want a place for that to exist in America. There's three types of Trump supporters. I will stand by this and die on this hill. There's those in the highest economic classes, the top 10% and up, who know that things like his tax cuts will benefit them disproportionately, and they just want to vote to enrich in themselves at the behest of the middle class. Then there's the second kind, which is those who largely don't understand government or politics. They don't really know much about it, the ins and outs, how it works. They don't understand legislating, electoral relevance, these kinds of things, but they do have some inherent paranoia about the government, whether it be from how they're raised, from their ignorance, from one thing or another, and Trump preys on that, right? And then the third one are just outright bigots who are tired of being cycled out of relevance in this country, whether it be homophobes, racists, misogynists, transphobes, whatever it is. They were largely getting pushed out of having a voice in this country.